My child, stop for a moment, because what you are about to hear did not come from a man, it came from above. It traveled through the silence of every night you wept alone. It passed through every morning you woke up and did not know how you would make it through the day. And it found you here, in this exact moment, because I have something specific to say to you today, and I was not willing to let anything keep it from reaching you. Something tried to. A distraction, a heaviness, a reason to keep scrolling and never know. But you paused, you stayed, and most people who started the season you have been walking would have already walked away by now. You did not, my child. That was not an accident. I brought you here myself. I do not rush to speak when things are easy. I wait. I wait for the moment when your heart is tender enough to receive the full weight of what I want to say, and that moment is now, my beloved. The suffering you have carried, the confusion you have endured, the silence you have sat inside for what felt like an unbearable length of time, none of it was punishment. All of it was preparation, and the preparation is finished. So listen closely, because what I am about to say to you, I have never said to someone who was not ready to receive it. I did not say it to the ones who walked away when the pressure became too much. I am saying it now to you, the one who stayed, the one who bent but did not break under the full weight of the season you were asked to carry. I am speaking to you now, my child. I have been watching every single step you took through the valley. I saw the night you nearly gave up. I saw the morning you put one foot in front of the other even though you had nothing left in you. I saw the tears you hid from everyone else because you did not want them to see how close to the edge you had come. And I need you to hear something I have been waiting to say. You made it through. The season that tried to bury you has ended. What comes next is not more suffering. What comes next is what I promised you before the foundation of the earth. You made it, my beloved. You made it through. I know those words may be hard to let all the way in, my child, because you have been bracing for so long that hope itself has started to feel dangerous. You learned somewhere in the middle of the season that it hurt less not to expect anything. So even now, part of you is standing back from what I am saying, waiting to see if it is safe to believe it. Let me be the safety, my beloved. I am not handing you another timeline that will disappoint you. I am handing you a finished thing. The valley was real. The exhaustion was real. The nights you lay awake doing the math on a life that would not add up were real. And the ending I am declaring over all of it is just as real as the pain was. You do not have to keep guarding the door. The thing you were afraid to hope for has already happened. You made it through, and nothing about that can be taken back now. If something in your chest just loosened as you read that, if your shoulders dropped even slightly, and a breath you did not know you were holding finally left you, do not brush that aside, my child. That is not your imagination. That is your own spirit recognizing what your mind has not fully caught up to yet. The war is over, so make it real between us. Type "I feel the season lifting." When you type it, you are not leaving a comment. You are agreeing out loud with what I have already declared over your life. And heaven is listening for your agreement. This is what this message is, my beloved. It is a declaration from your Creator that the hardest chapter of your life has turned its final page. You did not know when it would end. You asked me many times if it ever would. You are hearing the answer right now. It is over. And what begins now is the season you were built for. The season that requires everything the last season forged inside you. Let me tell you how you will know that you are one of the ones this message is truly meant for. My child, you have been in a season that felt impossible to survive. You prayed, and the answer seemed delayed. You trusted, and the ground still shifted beneath your feet. You kept going even when every reasonable voice around you told you to stop and find an easier road, and you are still here. That is not coincidence, my child. That is calling. This word was placed in front of you today because you completed something most people never complete. You walked through the full length of the trial. You did not turn back at the threshold of your breakthrough, in the moment when the pressure was most intense, and because you did not turn back, you are now standing at the door of everything I promised you. Let me teach you something that will explain the whole shape of the season you just survived. I call it the completion signal. The completion signal is the moment in a trial I designed when I have determined that the work inside you is done. It is not a loud moment, my beloved. It is not a dramatic announcement from the sky. It comes quietly, like the end of a long storm when the last drop of rain falls and the clouds begin to part and the light breaks through in a way that makes the whole landscape look different than it did before. Most people miss the completion signal because they have been so trained to endure that they no longer recognize when the enduring has done its full work. They keep bracing for the next wave even after the sea has gone completely still. They keep preparing for the next battle even after the field has already been cleared. Let me describe it to you the way I have watched it live in your body, my beloved, so you can see it clearly. Your shoulders have been carrying a tension you no longer even feel as tension, because it has been there so long it became your normal. Your mind has learned to wake before you are ready and begin scanning the day for the next threat before your feet have touched the floor. You have grown so used to bracing that stillness makes you suspicious. When a good thing arrives, part of you flinches, waiting for the cost of it to appear. That is not a flaw in your character, my child. That is what survival does to a faithful heart. It is the muscle of a soldier who has been at war so long that peace itself feels unfamiliar. But hear me. The war is not paused. It is not between rounds. It is over, and I am not asking you to trust that with your mind, which has been trained by the trial to distrust relief. I am asking you to let your body learn what your spirit already senses. That is what you have been doing, my child. You have been bracing for another wave. You have been holding your breath, living in the posture of a person still in the middle of the storm, because the storm went on so long that vigilance became the only way you knew how to stand. But something in you today, something deeper than your thoughts, something in a place words can barely name, recognizes what I am saying to you right now. The completion signal has sounded. The trial is complete, not almost complete, not 80% complete, done. Type the trial is finally over. Stay close to me, my beloved. Follow this voice and subscribe. Not to a channel alone, but to a steady flow of words I am using to keep your spirit awake as you cross out of one season and into another. There are messages coming that are meant for exactly where you are standing, and I do not want you to miss a single one of them. Now let me name what you have been carrying, so you know that the one who made you sees it fully and not from a distance. My beloved, you carried the weight of a season that went on longer than you thought you could survive. There were points in it when you stopped asking when it would end, and started asking whether you had done something to deserve it. You went back through your past looking for the reason. You examined your faith and wondered if your belief was strong enough. My child, you looked at others who seemed to be flourishing, and you felt a quiet shame that you could not understand your own valley, while others seemed to walk in sunshine. That kind of searching in the middle of a trial is not a sign of weakness. My child, it is the sign of a heart that is genuinely reaching for the truth, and the truth is finding you right here, right now. I watched you carry a particular kind of loneliness through this, my beloved, and I want to name it because you never could. It was not only that the season was hard, it was that no one around you seemed to understand why it was so hard for you. You watched others handle less and complain more, and you handled more and said nothing, and that silence cost you something no one ever saw. You began to feel like a stranger in your own life, like you were living a story no one else could read, and in the loneliest part of it, you wondered whether your struggle was proof that you were somehow being singled out for punishment. My child, hear me undo that lie right now. You were not being singled out for punishment, you were being set apart for preparation. There is a difference as wide as heaven between those two things, and the enemy has spent this entire season trying to blur it. Being set apart feels like isolation from the inside, but from where I sit, it looks like a jeweler taking a single stone away from the pile to work on it alone, because that one is worth the focused attention. You were the stone I took aside, my beloved, not to break you, to finish you. Here is what the length of your trial was actually saying about you. The length of your trial was never a measure of your failure. It was a measure of the magnitude of what you were being prepared to carry. Small assignments require short preparation, beloved. The weight of what I have placed your name on required a formation that takes time, that takes fire, that takes the kind of pressure that reshapes a person from the inside, at a level that cannot be seen from the outside, at a depth that only I can see and only time will reveal. For it is written, the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. James 1-3-4. The suffering was never because you were forgotten, my beloved. It was because you were chosen for something that required a specific refining, one that could not be shortcut or reached by any easier road. My trial was preparation, not punishment. Now let me give you the name of the thing you have felt, but perhaps never heard spoken aloud. You have wondered whether the hardness of your life is evidence that something is fundamentally wrong with you or with your calling. My beloved, you have watched people move through life with ease and wondered why your path required so much more from you. You have carried the exhaustion of someone running a race no one else around you seemed to be running, and in your most honest moments, alone in the quiet places where you do not perform for anyone, you have asked the question only truly brave people dare to ask: is this ever going to change? The explanation the world offers for a life like yours is spiritual deficit, my child. The people in your circle may have told you that you needed more faith, or that you were holding on to something, or that your continued suffering was proof you had fallen out of alignment with me. That explanation sounds spiritual, but it is not the one I authorized for you, and it is not what has been happening here. Let me show you the hidden mechanism instead. I call it the victory wound. The victory wound is the specific mark that forms on a person chosen to carry an assignment larger than their current capacity. For the assignment to fit, the person must be enlarged. And in my kingdom, enlargement always involves a wound that goes deep enough to create new interior room. The victory wound is not the sign of your weakness, my beloved. It is the signature of a preparation that has been working exactly as I designed it from the very beginning. Every figure in your scriptures who carried a great assignment carried a great wound first. Consider the prophet Elijah. He called fire down from heaven and confronted kings without flinching. But before any of that power was placed in him, he walked the long road of isolation and collapse in the wilderness. He sat under a broom tree and asked me to take his life. For it is written, he went a day's journey into the wilderness and sat down under a broom tree and asked that he might die. 1 Kings 19-4. The wound came before the fire. My child, the wound was not a detour away from his destiny. The wound was the passage into it. His suffering did not disqualify him. It prepared him for what no amount of comfort ever could have produced. And I was never far from him in it. For it is written, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 34-18. And Elijah was not the only one, my child. Consider Joseph, who carried a dream of elevation and then was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold, enslaved, and forgotten in a prison for years that no one could explain. The dream did not fail him. The pit and the prison were the road the dream had to travel. For it is written, until the time that his word came to pass, the word of the Lord tested him. Psalm 105-19. The testing was not me abandoning the promise, my beloved. It was me proving the man who would carry it. Consider Hannah, who wept in the temple year after year, so broken that the priest thought she was drunk on her own grief. And out of that exact wound came a son she gave back to me, a prophet who would anoint kings. Consider David, anointed as a boy, and then hunted through the wilderness for years before he ever sat on the throne he had already been promised. Every one of them carried the wound before the reward. Not one of them was exempt from the long road, and not one of their wounds was wasted. So when you look at your own scars and wonder whether they meant you were rejected, my child, look again. They are the same marks every carrier of a great assignment has worn. They are not the evidence that I forgot you. They are the evidence that I was forming you the way I have always formed the ones I trust with weight. So look closely at what your own suffering has produced and let it settle. There are two kinds of wound, my beloved. A wound that produces bitterness is a wound that stopped its process midway. A wound that produces depth is a victory wound that completed its full work in a person. Look at what has actually grown in you. You are not bitter. You are deeper. You are not closed. You are more open than you have ever been to the things of me and to the real weight of the people around you. My child, you carry a compassion now that you could not have manufactured on your own through any act of will. That was not something you produced. That is what the process did in you when you refused to walk away from it. Even when walking away would have been easier, type "the depth in me is mine." Let me tell you the difference between information and formation, because it will explain why the season had to be so long. Information is what you receive when you hear a teaching. My child, you can receive information in a single moment. Formation is what happens to you when I use a season of life to build something into the very structure of who you are. Formation takes time. It takes resistance. It takes the kind of sustained pressure most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid. My beloved, what I have been doing in you across these months, across these years, was never information work. It was formation work. I have been building into you a depth of character, a steadiness of spirit, a capacity for stillness in the middle of chaos that cannot be taught in a classroom and cannot be handed to you in a message. It had to be lived, and you lived it, my child. That is what makes what is coming different. You are finally able to hold it. Think of the difference this way, my beloved. A person can read every book ever written about the ocean and still panic the first time a wave knocks them down. But a person who has been in the water, who has been pulled under and learned how to find the surface, who has felt the current and learned how to move with it instead of against it, that person carries something no book could give them. My child, they are not braver because they read more. They are steadier because they lived it. That is what the last season did in you. It put you in the water. It pulled you under more times than you wanted, and every time something in you learned how to rise. You did not come out of the trial merely informed about faith. You came out formed by it, beloved. And now, when the new season brings weight of a different kind, the weight of increase, the weight of visibility, the weight of answered prayer that many people are not actually able to carry, you will not be knocked down by it. You will hold it, because I did not build you in a classroom. I built you in the deep, and I need to say something tender to your mind now, my child. Because your mind has been through as much as your spirit. Somewhere in the long season, your mind became a watchman on a wall, scanning the horizon for the next storm. And it did that so well that it does not know how to come down off the wall now that the sky has cleared. You may notice that even in a good moment, part of you is already bracing for the good moment to end. That is not you failing to have faith, my beloved. That is a mind that loved you enough to stay alert through a war. It is not your enemy. It simply needs to be retrained gently to receive instead of to defend, and I am the one who will retrain it. As you sit under my voice, I am teaching the watchman that the war is over and it is finally safe to come down. And I want you to understand something, my beloved, because you have carried it without language for it. You did not survive this season in spite of your weakness. You survived it because my spirit was doing something in you that required your agreement at every single point of the path. Every morning you got up was an act of agreement with the process. Every prayer you prayed through tears was an act of agreement. Every day you chose to believe when the evidence around you seemed to contradict everything you were believing for. That too was an act of agreement. And I was watching every act of agreement, and with every one of them I was saying, yes, that one is ready. Type "every morning I rose was seen." My child, before I show you what is stored on the other side of this door, I want you to reach beyond yourself for a moment. Somewhere near you there is a soul still in the middle of the storm you just walked out of, still bracing, still convinced the trial will never end, still certain no one sees them. Sow a seed in their name today, not because you are required to, but because your spirit already knows the completion I am declaring over you is real, and you want it declared over them too. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen. Let your giving be an intercession for someone whose storm has not yet broken. I see the name that just rose in your heart, and I see the seed you sow for them. Because you have stayed this far, my beloved, what I am releasing now is for the ones who did not walk away. And I must speak to you about the one who fought you through this whole season, because you deserve to know what you were actually up against. The length of your trial was not only formation, there was an enemy in it, and he was not passive. He studied the assignment I placed your name on, and he learned that he could not stop you by force, because your yes to me was too strong for a direct assault. So he chose a subtler weapon. He tried to make the length of your trial mean the wrong thing, he whispered, that the delay was proof you were forgotten. He whispered that the silence was proof you were disqualified. He whispered that if you were truly chosen, it would not be this hard. So perhaps you were never chosen at all. He used the question in your own tired mind, is this ever going to change? He used the mouths of people in your circle who told you the suffering was your own fault, that you lacked faith, that you were out of alignment. Those words wounded you because they came from people you trusted, but they were not the truth. And they were not from me. They were weapons, dressed in the language of concern, and I am exposing every one of them now before the courts of heaven, for what they were, not correction, not wisdom, weapons. For it is written, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. The tongues that named you forgotten are answered. For it is written, whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and a stone will roll back on the one who starts it rolling. Proverbs 26:27. The pit dug to bury you now waits beneath the feet of the one who dug it. And the whole campaign meant to destroy you has already been turned, for it is written, what they meant for evil, God meant for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive. Genesis 50:20. The very trial the enemy meant to bury you in became the ground I planted you in. He thought he was digging a grave. He was digging a furrow for a harvest. Type, the enemy could not bury me. Now let me give you a teaching that will permanently change the way you see the hardest season of your life. In the ancient Hebrew, the word for waiting is kava. Kava does not simply mean to sit still until something changes. Kava means to twist, to bind, to be intertwined with. My beloved, it describes a waiting that is active at its core, the kind that keeps a person bound to the source of what they are waiting for, so that when the moment of release finally comes, what is released is not only the thing they were waiting for, but the person they became by being woven together with me through the wait. For it is written, those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Isaiah 40:31, that word, wait, is kava. You did not simply endure, my child. You were intertwined. You were bound to the one who was forming you, and the strength coming to you now is the release of something that was being built inside you throughout the entire season. It was made for you, my child. It fits you perfectly because it was formed in the exact shape of the suffering you carried and the faith you held through it. Now let me name the resistance you may be feeling even as you listen, because you need to understand it before you can cross it. As I speak, there may be a strange mixture in you of hope and resistance. The hope is the part of you that recognizes the truth of what I am saying. The resistance is the part of you that has been disappointed before, the part that once heard breakthrough was coming and watched it not arrive on the timeline you expected. My child, the part that learned to protect itself by not fully opening, because full reception in the past led to a pain you were not sure you could survive again. That resistance has a name, my beloved, and the name is not unbelief. I call it the surrender threshold. The surrender threshold is the interior barrier that forms in a person chosen for significant things who has been stretched by the gap between what was promised and what arrived. It is the place in you that wants to believe, but holds back just enough to survive another disappointment. Hear me carefully, my child, because this is the hinge of everything. The surrender threshold is not the end of the road. It is the last door before the breakthrough room. A door that stays closed because of fear keeps a person safe, but it also keeps them small. A door that is opened through surrender does not promise you will never be hurt again, but it does give you access to everything waiting on the other side, and the room behind your surrender threshold is full, my beloved. I have been filling it every single day of the season you were in. Everything that was withheld during the trial was not denied. It was being stored, and the storage is now complete. The only thing left is for you to cross the threshold and walk in. You do not have to feel ready to cross it. You do not have to feel confident. You only have to take the step. Let me tell you what I have watched happen to many who survived great trials, my beloved, so that it does not happen to you. The trial ends. The person begins to sense the shift, and then, just as the new season starts to open, they retreat, not because they do not want the new season, but because the suffering had become familiar. And the familiar feels safer than the unknown, even when the familiar was killing them. So they live in a middle space, 1 foot in the old season and 1 foot in the new, never fully in either. They speak the language of victory but keep the posture of endurance. They know in their theology that the trial is over, but they have not let it be over in their body, in their daily walk, in the way they brace for the morning. My child, I do not want that half-life for you. The surrender threshold asks one question of every soul who reaches it, and I want you to hear the question clearly and answer it. Do you trust the one who brought you through more than you trust the familiarity of the suffering you survived? That is the whole test. Not whether you believe in me in a general way, whether you trust me at the exact point of the crossing, in the moment you are asked to lay down the old posture and pick up a new one you have not worn before. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, still leaning toward the door instead of backing away from it, is evidence that you have already begun to answer yes. And here is what most people miss about the timing, my child. So let me settle it in you now. The gap between the promise and the manifestation was never a delay in my heart. It was the completion of an alignment. The visible world cannot hold what the interior world is not yet aligned to carry. An inheritance handed to a person before they are formed to steward. It does not bless them. It overwhelms them, my beloved, and I do not give overflowing gifts to overwhelmed people. I wait until the interior is aligned to receive, to steward, and to extend what is given. That alignment completes on the inside before it ever appears on the outside. So if something in you right now is beginning to receive rather than resist, that shift is not wishful thinking. It is the evidence that the alignment has completed, and what is aligned within must eventually appear without. Type, I receive what was stored for me. I know there is a specific resistance in some of you that has not been named yet. My beloved, and I will not leave it unnamed. It sounds like this. I have heard messages like this before. I felt the hope, and then the hope faded, and I was right back where I started. My child, I am not going to tell you this time is different simply because I say so. I am going to tell you why it is actually different. What has changed is not the words. What has changed is where you are standing in the process. In the past, when a word of hope reached you, the alignment inside you had not yet completed. You were still in the middle of the trial, still in the formation. And so the word landed on you but could not take root, because the soil was not yet ready to hold it. That was not your failure, my beloved. That was timing. But you are not in that place anymore. The trial is done. The formation is finished. The soil has been broken up by everything you walk through, and broken soil is the only soil a seed can actually take root in. So when I say the harvest is here, it is not the same word arriving to the same unready ground. It is the promised word arriving at last to ground that years of pain have finally prepared. A seed that lands in prepared soil does not stay a seed for long, my child. And you are prepared soil now. Now I give you permission to rest, my beloved, not to stop, but to rest in the truth of what I have just said. You do not have to add anything to what has already been done in this season. You do not have to perform your way into the new one, or prove to me that you deserve what is coming. The work of the season is finished. The formation is complete. And the posture of the new season is not effort. It is reception. You can breathe. You can lay the striving down. What is coming toward you requires open hands, not clenched fists, and you have more than earned the right to open your hands. I know how strange rest will feel at first, my beloved, because striving became the way you survived. For so long, the only thing that stood between you and the next disaster was your own effort, your own vigilance, your own refusal to stop. So rest does not feel like peace to you yet. It feels like danger. It feels like dropping your guard in a fight that is not finished. Let me speak to that fear directly, my child. The reason rest felt like danger in the old season is that in the old season it would have been. You were in a fight, and you were right to keep your hands up. But the fight is over now, and the same posture that kept you alive in the war will keep you exhausted in the peace. Laying down your guard is not carelessness anymore. It is obedience. It is the first act of trust in the new season, and it is the doorway through which everything I have stored for you will come. I am not asking you to become passive, my beloved. I am asking you to become receptive. There is a strength in open hands that clenched fists never learn, the strength of a soul that finally trusts the one who is providing, and I am worthy of that trust, my child. I have never once failed you across the entire length of the road that brought you here, and I am not going to begin failing you now, at the very moment your reward is arriving. Hear a warning now, spoken in love, because I want you protected on the other side of this door. In the days after this message, the old bracing will try to return, not as an obvious attack, but as something that feels like caution, like responsibility, like a sensible thought. It will say, do not get your hopes up, brace yourself. Another wave is surely coming. When that voice rises, and it will, do not be afraid of it, my child, and do not argue with it. Only know its real name. That is not wisdom. It is the survival program your mind ran brilliantly through a hard season, still running in the foreground even though the season it was built for is over. Your mind became a watchman scanning the horizon for the next storm, and it does not yet know how to stand down. You are not broken. You are not malfunctioning. You are simply a soul whose vigilance served you well and now needs to be retrained to receive. When the old bracing rises, do not obey it. Let your shoulders come down. Remember the completion signal. Type, I lay down the bracing. Someone you know is still inside the storm you just left. My beloved, someone who has been told their suffering is their own fault. Someone bracing for a wave that has already passed. Someone who cannot yet hear that it is over. Send this message to them. Be the voice I use to reach a place in them that has gone quiet. Sometimes I move through a familiar hand to tell a weary soul that the season has finally turned. Now hear the shape of what is coming, my child, so you know what to watch for. Every season of trial in my kingdom is followed by a season of harvest, and the harvest is always proportional to the depth of the planting. For it is written, let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap, if we do not give up. Galatians 6-9. You did not give up, beloved. You were planted deep, deeper than most. And what is about to come up from that planting will be more than you have the capacity to estimate from where you are standing right now. For it is written, I know the plans I have for you, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29-11. I knew these plans before you ever entered the valley. I knew the valley was the road to them. And now the road has ended, and the plans are arriving. And let me tell you the shape the harvest will take, my beloved, so you do not miss it when it comes quietly. It will not all arrive in one loud day. It will come the way I most often move, steadily, one confirmation after another, until one morning you look back over a few short months and realize the landscape of your life has completely changed. A door you had stopped knocking on will open on its own. A relationship you had grieved will shift, or a better one will arrive in its place. Provision will reach a place that has been empty so long you had stopped expecting anything there. Clarity will return to a decision that had been fogged for years, and you will notice something about the way it all arrives, my child. It will come without the striving that used to be required. You will not have to claw for it. You will not have to compromise to keep it. It will come like fruit ripening on a tree you planted long ago and had almost forgotten, because the planting was done in the trial and the ripening is the season you are now entering. That is what a harvest is. It is the visible return of an invisible planting you planted in tears. For it is written, those who sow in tears shall reap with songs of joy. Psalm 126-5. The tears were the sowing, my beloved. The joy is the reaping, and the reaping has begun. Let me show you a scene, my beloved, and let your heart come with me into it, because it is not a fantasy. It is a preview of what is arriving. Picture yourself 6 months from today. You are sitting somewhere quiet. What matters is not what the room looks like, but how you feel sitting in it. You feel settled, my beloved, not the forced stillness of a person making themselves be calm, but the deep settledness of someone who has come all the way through something and knows they are on the other side of it. There is a quality to the silence around you that feels like an answered prayer instead of an empty space. You look at your life and you recognize that the things you prayed for during the long season have arrived, not all at once but steadily, one after another, in a cadence you have come to recognize as the rhythm of me keeping my word. My child, you are not straining, you are not pushing, you are not trying to talk yourself into belief. The believing is no longer something you are doing, it is something you are living. And you look back at the person you were at the beginning of the hard season, and you love them, and you honor them, because that person stayed. And because that person stayed, you are sitting in the settled quiet of answered prayer. The gap between where you are right now and that scene is not distance, my child. It is orientation. It is the difference between bracing and receiving. And that crossing is happening in you as you listen. Now let me lead you into a moment that will anchor all of this in your body, because what happens only in the mind stays only in the mind. But what lands in the body becomes part of who you are. Take one slow breath in and release it slowly. My child, now find the place in your body that has been carrying the weight of this season. Not in your thoughts, in your body. Somewhere in your chest or your stomach or your shoulders, there is a place where the weight has been stored, and you have carried it so long you stopped noticing it was there. Let your shoulders come down. Let your chest open, my beloved, and hear my voice speaking directly into that place. Quietly, with complete authority. That season is finished. You are released from carrying it. What you have been holding belongs to the past, and the past is behind you now. Let the space where the weight was begin to fill, not with emptiness, but with the fullness of a new season arriving, steady and certain and completely yours. Before you rise into what is next, my beloved, let me honor what you carried, because you deserve to be honored before you are released. You carried the weight of a season that asked more of you than you thought you could give, and you gave it anyway. You carried the weight of prayers that seemed to go unanswered, and you prayed them anyway. You carried the weight of a hope that was being tested past the point most people can bear, and you held it anyway. You carried the weight of an identity the season tried to strip from you, the identity of someone chosen, someone called, someone I have my hand on, and you held on to that identity even in the stretches when you could not see a single piece of evidence for it. My child, that was not small. That was one of the bravest things a human soul can do, to keep believing a promise in the dark, with no proof, on nothing but the memory of my voice. I saw all of it. I never looked away, not once, not for a single moment of it. And now, having honored what you carried, I am ready to release you from carrying it. And now, my beloved, stand with me in what is true about you, and say it out loud, or in the quiet of your heart, with the full weight of a person who has walked through fire and come out the other side. I am the chosen one. I made it through. The season of preparation is complete. I release the posture of endurance. I receive the fullness of my new season. I receive what was promised. I receive healing for the places that were wounded. I receive clarity for the places that were confused. I receive provision for the places that were emptied. I receive the reward the Father has stored for me. For every single day of the trial I walk through, I receive it now. I receive it all. Amen. Let those words land, my child. Do not deflect them. Do not minimize them. Do not tell yourself this was not really for you. It is for you. It is specifically for you. This word traveled the entire length of this message to reach the part of you that needed it most. And if it has reached you today, sow one final seed. In the name of the person who is on your heart right now, the one you know this message was truly meant for. Visit the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on screen. Let it be your open hand agreeing with the harvest heaven has already released over your life. You are not still in the valley, my beloved. The valley is behind you. When the fullness of this new season arrives, and it is arriving, you will recognize it, because it will feel like me keeping a promise I made to you before you were born. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, it is finally all over. My child, and you made it all the way through. The season of reward has begun. Open your hands and receive it. Type, I made it all the way through.